Hey guys, my name is Izzy and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about all the books that I read in the month of November. This is my November wrap up. For November, I read a total of 10 books, some physical, some ebook, and some audio, so it's just a mixture of everything. I finished off the month super strong, so without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about the books that I read. So in order, I first read The Girls I've Been by Tess Sharpe. This book I read from October 25th to November 2nd. So this is a YA mystery / thriller book. It is about a girl named Nora who grew up being forced into the con life by her mother. So her mother was a con woman and would basically use her daughter to find her way into these men's lives who she basically conned them for money. And so her mother basically forced her to learn and partake in different identities, so hence the name The Girls I've Been. So this book takes place in the present as well as in the past. In the past, you get to see her as a child and all the girls that she's been, that she's had to be because of her mom, and also the present, which she is currently in a bank with her girlfriend and her ex. And so while they're at this bank, there is a bank heist going on, and as the book suggests, 3 teens, 2 bank robbers, 1 way out. So this was definitely a fast read for me. I wouldn't say it was much of a thriller, but it was captivating the whole time. I was entertained for sure, and I would describe Nora as very strong-willed, super smart, and she uses the fact that she is underestimated as kind of like a power to get her way. Basically, she's used to adult men undermining her because, again, she's playing these innocent girls throughout her whole life to con men. And so seeing that and her using that to her own benefit was just a great read. So I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. So the second book that I read this month was Kingdom of the Curse by Kerri Maniscalco. I read this book from October 27th to November 4th. Not much to say about this book. This is the second book to a series. This series being Kingdom of the Wicked. So this series is about 2 sisters, twins, who are destined for something great, either evil or good. They don't really know. Their grandma has forbidden them and kind of warned them about the dark arts and the dark magic, and so they basically find themselves using dark magic, and it kind of all goes downhill from there. So the second book, we follow one of the sisters, Amelia, and she is out for revenge. And in this series, the 7 sins are portrayed by a prince. So you get to see Prince of Wrath, Prince of Pride, Gluttony, etc., etc. And so the second book was just very interesting. I think probably half of the book was just these 2 characters desiring each other and just kind of full of smut. So I listened to this on audiobook, so the whole time I was just in my car, like just trying to keep a straight face at what I was listening to. But other than that, it was a pretty interesting book. I found myself entertained, and I will be picking up the 3rd book. I don't find any reason for me not to continue on the series, and I gave this book a generous 5 stars just because I was just entertained the whole time. So the next book that I picked up is It Starts With Us by Colleen Hoover. This is the sequel to another one of her books, It Ends With Us. So being a sequel, this one follows Lily right after the other book, It Ends With Us. You see Lily recovering from the relationship that she just left, and this book follows a second chance romance, which I really loved. I do appreciate a good second chance romances. It's one of the tropes that I really like, especially when there's been so many years in between and the characters are just meant for each other. Like, if there's miscommunication, then yes, I feel very aggravated. The way that this one was written, I was rooting for the 2 characters, and so I do really highly recommend this. Now, Colleen Hoover, I feel like she's the author that everyone is talking about, and there's some readers out there that are gonna hate. I personally love Colleen Hoover. I love her books. I've seen a lot of booktubers who hate her writing and encourage to read better, but honestly, they're entertaining. I mean, you know, when Justin Bieber was coming out and One Direction was coming out and even BTS, and like some people low-key liked them, but they would still claim that they didn't just because everybody else didn't. I feel like that's the case with Colleen Hoover. I feel like people low-key really like her, but they just don't want to admit it. But anyways, I give this book 5 stars. I really loved it, and I've read plenty of her books already. I'm not quite done yet, but there's still other books out there that I haven't read by her that I'm really looking forward to. Mostly her series, I haven't really delved into those, but her standalones, I've basically read them all. So yeah, I do recommend this one because it was endearing. I feel like it was heart-touching, heartwarming, and yeah, go out there and read it. The next book that I read was Leap of Faith by Cameron Hamilton and Lauren Speed, and I read this book from November 7th to November 11th. The reason why I picked this up is because Lauren and Cameron are one of the couples from the show Love is Blind on Netflix. They are from the first season. Now the show is a bit extreme. They basically date without seeing each other, and if the couple ends up liking each other, then the men will propose without seeing the other person, and then they go on this like honeymoon, finally seeing each other, and they basically see if love is truly blind. In the end, the couples that did make it have a big wedding. They say I do or they say I don't, and end of story. And so basically this couple, they fell in love in the show. They were just the cutest couple there, like truly a match made in heaven. Yeah, they do basically end up marrying each other, and they wrote this book. Now I gave this book 3 stars, mostly because it was more of like dating advice. Kind of wanted to see more of like their experience and the backstories and what you didn't see on the show, and just know more about what they thought and what they went through while they were in the show. They do talk about backstories and what was happening behind cameras, but I found the dating advice to be just very boring. I mean, I'm married and I've been married for a little over a year, and so the dating advice was just kind of something that I had to listen through to get to like the next chapter where they talk about the next step in the show and their experience. I admire the couple so much. They talk about very important topics like mixed race relationship. She is black and he is white, and so they talk about some of the problems that came up and how they dealt with it. For that reason, I did give it a 3 stars. It was enjoyable, but it was just kind of like some parts I was like, you know, skipping through. And after that, I did pick up Luck of the Titanic by Stacey Lee, and this book follows Valora, who is Chinese living in London, and she has 2 tickets to get into the ship, and she wants to go into the Titanic for 2 reasons. One being that she wants to go to New York to be a circus performer, and there are 2 people in the ship that can help her get there. So you see her, first of all, sneaking into the ship even though she has tickets, faking to be first class, and basically finding these 2 people that are going to help her obtain that goal. And of course, we all know the tragedy of the Titanic, so spoiler alert, the sink ships. And the ending I was not expecting. It kind of made me cry, of course. It was an entertaining read, and for that I gave it 3.5 stars. And I read this from October 23rd to November 16th. So it did take me quite a while to get to, but after this book, this is where it started to pick up. I started to read really great books, and that being the 6th book, The Hacienda by Isabel Canas. So this one is a historical fiction. You follow Beatriz, whose father was basically murdered. He was executed for political reasons, and so it being around the Mexican War of Independence, she's basically left to fend for herself and for her mother. So she takes matters into her own hands. So she marries this very wealthy man named Rodolfo, inherits the hacienda, and so she goes to the hacienda to live in, and she is excited to make it her own. The hacienda is kind of left very dirty, full of cobwebs. It's not well kept, and she finds out that not even the workers like to spend the night there. She also meets her sister-in-law Juana, who kind of laughs and makes fun of her because she is scared to be in there alone at night. She starts seeing red eyes, and just the book itself, the description of the house is very terrifying. There's doors slamming everywhere, there's voices, there's laughter. Like, you kind of feel her walking through the house and then just kind of feeling like there's something lurking behind you. It's creepy. There's lurking shadows. Again, the slamming of the doors, the cold feelings, the chills walking through rooms. There's also a forbidden attraction in this book. And I also enjoyed it because I'm Mexican, so just reading about like the food that they eat, the pozole, and I could just imagine a very Mexican home, and it was just very heartwarming. And the fact that this book made that very vivid, like in my mind, I gave this book 5 stars. Overall, just a great read. Highly, highly, highly recommend this. And I read this book from November 5th through November 17th. So right after I finished The Hacienda, I did pick up The Cartographers by Peng. Now, I read and talked about this on my vlog, so I'm gonna keep it short here on the wrap up. But basically, it is about Nell Young, who is a cartographer, and her career was ruined by her father because of this old gas station map. And so when her father turns out dead, with the map still in his desk hidden under the drawer, she is out to find out why this map ruined her career and why her dad was murdered for it. So again, you can see more of my thoughts on that vlog. I read this from November 17th through November 22nd and gave this a 5 out of 5 stars. Also, the next book that I picked up in that same vlog is Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt. I picked this up on audiobook. We follow Tova, who is a widow and also lost her son out to sea. So she is full of mourning. She lost her husband, lost her son. So in order to cope with the loss, she picks up some night shifts at the aquarium where she befriends the giant Pacific octopus named Marcellus. So you follow both of the perspectives as well as another character named Cameron. And so we follow these characters as Marcellus is trying to reveal this big secret to Tova, which will definitely fill the hole in her heart. This one I also talked about in that vlog. This book is full of hope, full of love, highly recommend it. I read this book from November 16th through November 23rd and gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. 2 more books to talk about. So the next book that I read was The Midnight Library by Haig. So in this book, I had never heard about it before until recently. I just saw that it was available as an audiobook on my Libby account, so I picked it up. I wasn't expecting much, but really ended up loving this book. So we follow Nora, who finds herself in between life and death inside of a library. Her, I believe, either middle school or elementary school librarian is there to kind of guide her through what is known in between life and death. And this librarian is basically telling her that she has this opportunity to live in sort of like a multiverse version of herself where she doesn't have to live her biggest regrets. If she likes the life that she is living in, then she gets to basically stay there. This book is huge on depression and mental health. It was also a Goodreads choice winner in the year of 2020, so I'm surprised that this is the first time that I hear about it. So I gave this book a 5 out of 5 stars and read this from November 24th to November 28th. And lastly, I read It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. We follow Piper, who is spoiled, but she is fashionable and she is a big influencer. She's kind of like a wild child, so she is used to paparazzi following her. So one day her stepfather finally decides enough is enough and sends her to Westport, Washington, where her father was born and where basically she was born and raised. She has no recollection of Westport just because her mother has kept it from her. It was basically a very hurtful part in her life, and so the girls, Piper and her sister, basically don't know much about their life there. So her sister is just a sweet, kind girl who cannot watch her sister Piper go to this basically fisherman town and fend for herself, and so she accompanies her. There Piper meets Brandon, and the love that sparks in between them. This book has a lot of smut, so if you're into that, definitely pick it up. So at the same time that these two characters are basically falling for each other, LA is still calling Piper's name. So there's character development, there's romance. There's also another book, I believe, following her sister. I read this book from November 22nd through November 29th. And I gave this book a 4 out of 5 stars. So that is it for this video. Total of 10 books. Very happy with the amount of books that I read and with the books that I read. I think the ending was very strong. I read some very great books. The very last one was actually in my December TBR and I got ahead of myself and read it. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Let me know what books you read in November and which ones I should be picking up myself. I would love to see all of your recommendations down in the comments below. If you don't know what to comment but you still want to support my channel, just comment a whole bunch of coffee mugs and I would really appreciate it. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. Look forward to a book haul and also the BookTube newbie book tag as well. I will leave my social media link down below, which would be my Instagram and also my Goodreads. I will also list all of the books mentioned down below. Give a big like to this video and subscribe to my channel if you are enjoying my content so far, and I will see you in my next one.